Biden administration announces additional security assistance for Ukraine. It says here, as President Biden just announced, this just was this afternoon, the Department of Defense is sending an additional security assistance package to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs. This announcement is the Biden administration's 47th tranche of equipment to be provided from DoD inventories for Ukraine since August of 2021. This package includes additional capabilities to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses as it faces brutal aerial assaults from Russia, dual-purpose improved conventional munitions, which are helping Ukraine on the battlefield, anti-tank weapons, and other equipment to meet Ukraine's critical needs and to help Ukraine counter Russia's ongoing war of aggression. The capabilities in this package are valued at, ding, 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 $325 million is the round that Ukraine is getting at this point. I sympathize with them being in a war, for sure. I think it's horrible. War is horrible no matter which side you're on. You might be on the wrong side, or you might be on whoever you think is the wrong side or whoever you think is the right side. War is awful, but that is why they need to be negotiating peace with Russia. It is critical. They are not winning on the battlefield. We are just sending gobs and gobs of money. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians are dying. And at this point, the responsible thing to do would be to advocate for a peace negotiation. But that is not happening. Want to play this clip for you. This is Jake Sullivan. He is saying he's not, when we're talking about how much money have we spent already on Ukraine, how much money are we going to continue giving them? Jake Sullivan says, I'm not going to stand here and give you a precise figure on how much taxpayer money has been spent on aid to Ukraine. Watch this.
First, with regards to the United States' commitment to Ukraine, there are 26 Republican lawmakers, including 6 senators, a small minority, as you mentioned before, who sent a letter to the OMB director saying that they were unaware of just how much the administration has spent thus far in support of Ukraine. They know how much was appropriated, obviously, but they don't know how much has been spent thus far. Do you have a general figure you can give us?
I'm not going to stand here and give a precise figure. What I will tell you is that we have supplied to the Congress every dollar that has been obligated. So if they are unaware, it's because they are not looking at the reports that we are submitting to the Hill.
Okay, so, I can't tell you the amount. I mean, if they don't know, they don't know. They should be looking and they should be figuring it out for themselves, right? So they're not really wanting to tell us how much money they've spent because the number's huge. Here he is also saying that it's unpredictable how much more money we're going to be spending to Ukraine. Watch this.
What are you telling congressional leaders about how much more aid is needed to ensure Ukraine can win the war, not just sustain the war? And what timeline are you sharing with them?
Well, we've put forward a proposal. We've actually laid out in some detail every element of assistance that we believe is necessary to get us to the end of this year, and then we have begun talking to them about what next year looks like as well. But that's in military support, economic support, humanitarian, energy assistance, and so forth. War is inherently unpredictable, of course. So I can't look you in the eye, and I certainly can't look them in the eye and predict exactly what's going to happen on exactly what timetable. And therefore, we need to have a degree of flexibility and adaptability in our approach, as we have since the beginning of this conflict.
Okay, so we don't know how much more money we're going to be spending. Here's Senator Rand Paul. He's actually saying, no more, guys, no more. We are getting to that season where we might be seeing government shutdowns. There's going to be a lot of talk of this. And Rand Paul is basically saying he's going to shut down the government if the bill includes aid to Ukraine. Watch this.
I will not consent to any expedited passage of any spending bill that provides any more American aid to Ukraine. It's as if no one has noticed that we have no extra money to send to Ukraine. Our deficit this year will exceed $1.5 trillion. Borrowing money from China to send it to Ukraine makes no sense. It's not as if we have some sort of rainy day fund sitting around, trillions of dollars in a pot of money, and we're just going to send that to Ukraine. We're going to borrow it. When we borrow it and create new money to pay for that borrowing, we create the inflation that is plaguing our economy. Since the beginning of Russia's war in Ukraine, the American taxpayers provided Ukraine with $113 billion. Over the 583 days of war, between February 24th, 2022 and the end of the month, that averages $6.8 billion per month, or $223 million per day. There's a lot of things that we need to fix in our country before we borrow money to try to perpetuate a war in another country. When will the aid requests end? When will the war end? Can someone explain what victory in Ukraine looks like? President Biden certainly can't. His administration has failed to articulate a clear strategy or objective in this war, and Ukraine's long-awaited counteroffensive has failed to make meaningful gains in the east. With no clear end in sight, it looks increasingly like Ukraine will be yet another endless quagmire funded by the American taxpayer.
Yeah, well, hopefully it doesn't last that long. But good for Rand Paul for standing up for this and saying we're just not going to be spending any more money on this. But I don't know how long that will last. He will surely be outvoted by all the warmongers in Washington. He's not alone, though. Polish president has now... Poland has been one of the most staunchest allies of Ukraine since the beginning of the war, and now Poland is shifting its tune, saying, yeah, you know what, I don't know, we're not going to really continue this anymore. They have halted weapons now to Ukraine. They're kind of saying we're not going to continue on. They do have an election coming up next month, so this could have something to do with it. The sentiment, the support amongst the Polish people has worn thin. They no longer are as gung-ho about supporting Ukraine, the refugees, and the war as they were at the very beginning. I think they also thought this would be quick. You know, NATO's going to go in there or something and help fight and maybe shut it down. Who knows what people thought or how they thought this was going to end quickly. But here's the Polish president. He's actually now comparing, very harshly, Ukraine to a drowning person that can pull you into the depths with them.
Mamy trochę do czynienia tak z tonącym. My jesteśmy tym, który ratuje. Jak jest tonący, każdy, kto kiedykolwiek brał udział w ratowaniu tonącego, czy każdy, kto kiedykolwiek uczył się o tym, co dzieje się w tej sytuacji, wie o tym, że człowiek tonący jest niesłychanie niebezpieczny, ponieważ może pociągnąć w głębiny.
I'm going to actually start this over. I'm going to read it to you guys because it's in Polish. So I'm going to just start and I'm going to read the captions for you to show you what he's saying. He says, it's like we're dealing with a drowning person. Anyone who has experienced rescuing a drowning person knows that he is extremely dangerous because he can pull you to the depths. He is unimaginable. He has unimaginable strength due to fear and the influence of adrenaline and can simply drown the rescuer, which is true. They say a drowning person is grasping for straws, and indeed, it's a bit like that situation in Ukraine. It's necessary to act in such a way to protect oneself from being harmed by a drowning person. Of course, we must act mainly in such a way as to not harm ourselves. Because if a drowning person causes harm and drowns us, he will not get help. So that's true. So we have to look after our interests, and we will do it effectively and decisively. And that's the end that he's saying there. So he's saying, look, and it's true. I was a lifeguard for many, many years, actually, in my youth. That was what I did all through high school and college. And we were definitely trained that a drowning person, when they'll claw all over you and they'll push you down as they're trying to get themselves up for air. And that is what's happening in Ukraine. And obviously you cannot help a person. It's kind of like what they say in the airplane, you know, put your oxygen mask on first, and then you can help your children, you can help the people around you, but you need to take care of yourself first so that you can help them. And Poland is saying that now. They're saying, you know, we need to kind of look out for ourselves first, because we can't take care of Ukraine if we just allow ourselves to be dragged down with them in this war. So they're starting to take a more measured approach. They're no longer the staunchest ally of Ukraine. They really were, I think, probably the biggest ally of Ukraine in this whole entire thing was probably Poland, but their sentiment has shifted. And again, they do have an election next month, so that might have something to do with it, but it's just very interesting. Zelenskyy has been here in the United States these last few days, trying to get more money, trying to appeal at the United Nations General Assembly. He did speak, and you have to kind of look at this, because what's interesting is the media edited it. You know, when Zelenskyy gave his speech, there wasn't a lot of people in the crowd, but they edited this video in order to make it look like the crowd was way bigger. But the funny thing is that when you stop the tape and you look at the crowd that's sitting there nodding along with Zelenskyy, being like, yes, you know, he's saying such great and important things, Zelenskyy is in the crowd of his own video because they just took crowd shots. and then they edited them in and made it look like that's the crowd he was speaking to. Here's this video. You can see him. He's speaking here. And at about 14 seconds into this, we see Zelenskyy in the crowd of his own speech, which is just really hilarious. There he is, right there. Pause it. He's right there. There's Zelenskyy. He's in his own speech. So this was just kind of a funny thing just to see that was circulating on social media. But I do want to play a couple of his clips that he did, some of the things he did say during these speeches. Here he is saying, "Hear me, Russia is pushing the world to the final war." So he's talking about this big world war that Russia is pushing us into. He's not blaming NATO. He's saying Russia's doing it. Watch this.
Please hear me. Let unity decide everything openly. While Russia is pushing the world to the final war, Ukraine is doing everything to ensure that after Russian aggression, no one in the world will dare to attack any nation. Weaponization must be restrained. War crimes must be punished. Deported people must come back home. And the occupier must return to their own land. We must be united to make it, and we'll do it. Slava Ukraini.
So blaming Russia for this, really, if we're going to be marched into a world war, if we're going into the final war, it's because NATO won't back down. NATO continues to encourage Ukraine to keep fighting, promising all kinds of riches, I think, when this thing is over. Maybe to Zelenskyy himself, maybe to certainly there's a lot of American corporations just itching to get into Ukraine to start rebuilding in order to make a lot of money off of Ukraine. But blaming Russia for this, not looking at NATO's role in this, not looking at the antagonization of Russia in this whole entire thing, that is what they're talking about. That's what he's talking about, and interesting. Here's another real interesting, clearly, and this kind of goes to the idea that Zelenskyy is just a puppet. A lot of people think Zelensky's an actor, he's a puppet, they're telling him what to say, and so he just says what he's told. I would say that this next speech proves that, because it's very bizarre. He's in the middle of a war. Hundreds of thousands of people in his country are dying, people are starving, they're in war-torn zones, and he's concerned with climate change. Watch this.
Even though humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives, this means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. And when people in the streets of New York and other cities of the world went out on climate protest, we all have seen them. And when people in Morocco and Libya and other countries die as a result of natural disasters, and when islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war and kill tens of thousands of people.
So it's just really bizarre that he would take a moment in his speech to talk about climate and how millions of people are potentially going to die from being underwater or tornadoes or fires or whatever. I mean, this guy is in the middle of a war. And the fact that he decides to use any breath at all on climate change, his people in Ukraine do not care about climate change right now. That is not their concern. They're not sitting there wondering, oh, am I going to be taken out by a strange, tornado or drought or something? They're worried about war right now. People in war-torn countries, they have bigger fish to fry than first world problems. And I might get eviscerated for that. Oh, first world problem, climate change. It's actually a third world problem because the people who are poor are going to suffer the most. Yeah, because of the climate change policies that we're enacting that make it to where we're attacking the farming, attacking animals, attacking all kinds of things that just even the fossil fuels industry not allowing some of these poorer countries to actually rise up and develop. And saying, no, you must change. Really, it's just a way to keep many of them down. That has been really clear to me throughout this entire thing, that it's not really about climate change or the care of our politicians on that. I just don't think they care. I don't think they care at all. I think what they care about is remaining on top. I think what they care about is remaining in power. And I think they care to debilitate developing countries to keep them down so that they're no longer a threat. They don't want those small countries that they spent 100 years keeping down as banana republics. They don't want them rising up and actually saying, you know what, and we don't like you, America, we're going to go and partner up with China. That is what they're trying to stop. That's the scenario they don't want to see. And so they make it all about climate change so that they can point the finger and debilitate countries. And they've even got Zelenskyy in on this. They gave him talking points, obviously, clearly, because there's no way in hell this guy cares about climate change when he's got hundreds of thousands of people dying in his country from warfare. There is no way he is caring about climate change right now. That's like a person thinking their Starbucks coffee got cold, while they're like got starving children at home. So clearly, this looks to me like he is being given talking points and he is absolutely operating like a puppet of the establishment, of whoever is wanting. Go up there and give a little, make sure you just add in some climate change in there because that's an important topic we're pushing. And Zelenskyy, like a good soldier, did it. All right, guys, let me tell you about cbdistillery.com. I'm someone who doesn't sleep well. I've got a dog and she's got some aches and pains. And this is what really got me into CBD, is because so many people said to me, have you tried CBD for your dog? She's got arthritis. And that is why I looked into cbdistillery.com for a natural way to help my dog get the relief that she needs from her aches and pains. And also, I ordered a little sleep stuff for me because I do have a hard time sleeping. Any way I could get sleep, anything that because I'm a horrible sleeper. So anything I can do to try to help in that, I am willing to try. And CBD has been great. CB Distillery has over 2 million satisfied customers. 90% of customers report they sleep better with CBD. 81% said CBD helps them with stress. 80% said CBD helps with aches and pains after physical activity. So if you struggle to get a good night's sleep, or if you're dealing with too much stress and you could just use a little calm in your life, or if you suffer with pain and discomfort, especially after physical exercise, try CBD from the source that I trust, cbdistillery.com. You're going to get 20% off your order when you enter my name, Kim, at checkout. No prescription required. That's cbdistillery.com, promo code Kim for 20% off.